Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Embodying You. I'm your host, Tiffany Hart, and today's going to be a little bit different. I have two friends coming on we are going to talk about an experience that we had within a group text where someone shared something. It triggered the other person, kind of made them upset, made them feel some feelings that did not feel so good. And then where we all came to with it. Because not only did we have a little conversation within the group text, but then we had a conversation live in person. And as we were talking live in person, we said, oh, this has to go on the podcast. This has to go on the podcast. Because the difference here is what we have learned from most of society is that when you get upset or triggered by something someone else says, and triggered, by the way, can also mean that you are triggered with a feeling of envy or jealousy. So it doesn't just have to mean, oh, I'm feeling mad or I'm feeling like they're ruining my good time. Whatever your potential thoughts or feelings are behind the trigger, what's so beautiful about where life can get to when you really begin to let go of blaming the other person and it being their fault that you're feeling that way. Because again, that is what we are taught. We are taught very much to focus on the other person outside of us or the other thing, whatever it is. Maybe it's a barking dog. Maybe it's a cat that attacks you in the middle of the night. Those last two are both scenarios of mine. When we really begin and then embody throughout life experiences that we're actually not meant to blame anything or anybody that's doing the thing, anybody outside of us. We're meant instead to examine how we feel. And as we examine how we feel and as we do healing on what comes up for us, like for example, in the last podcast episode, I talked about how part of what the barking dog brought up for me was rejection. Feelings. My cat just knocked over my microphone. Those of you in the video, I'm just going to leave it in here. You all can see it. So even within my story of the barking dog or my cat who attacked me I didn't tell you all, I don't think really about the cat attacking me in the middle of the night. He doesn't do it anymore. But with the barking dog, part of what that brought up for me was feelings of rejection. But how that came up initially was anger. I was very angry with the dog. I was angry with the neighbors, just all of those things. But really, it was helping me see the ways that I was feeling rejected because the dog was barking at me, so it wasn't accepting me in its territory. Hey, I have hands here to pet you. Those of you who can see the video, my cat just tried to be pet with the microphone, and that doesn't work because I've learned when I touch the microphone, you all can hear it. So we'll see what happens here. So in this episode, we have a very real conversation about that. We also have a very real conversation about being seen on video and on camera because I completely forgot until about 20 minutes before we recorded this podcast to let them know, oh, hey, by the way, my podcast has a video component. And so we talk about that because no matter who we are, what we look like, we all have insecurities and we're also not used to seeing ourselves. So it takes time. And even when we look at ourselves and we feel insecure, that's also an invitation to heal something within ourselves. I mean, oh my God, I have healed so much internally about how I feel when I look at myself. I still have more to go, but we talk about that in this episode. And then what the three of us are doing together, and we'll talk about this a little throughout the episode, is we have created a free 1 hour space for people to get together and just share whatever comes up. And it's not a space where we're having conversation back and forth. It's not like that. You can come into the group, you can be on camera or not. You can speak or not, but basically it's a group of spiritual people who are doing the inner work and also learning, okay, where am I at in my spiritual Understanding. So, and people come in from all walks of life. You have people who, I mean, Amy's been in the spiritual realm learning the laws of the universe. I don't want to say the laws of the universe. Well, yeah, I guess that would be kind of what it is, but she has been doing this work for 20 plus years. I actually grew so much in the first 2 years of our relationship because we were talking almost every day, and I learned so much from her. My trajectory in life, my spiritual journey was sped up tremendously through knowing this woman. So you have a woman on here who has been 20 plus years learning these things, that everything that happens in our life is for a reason, and anything that I feel about what someone or something else is doing is about me. I mean, she was the one who first taught me that anything that you see repeated in your life is something to take a look at. Like, even just the fact that her name is Amy is a huge synchronicity for me, because you have, I mean, the Amy story is wild in my life. I mean, even just, I didn't really know any Amy's until I'm in this mastermind, this human design mastermind, where I meet Amy Michelle, who you'll hear from today. And then in that same one was another Amy. So there were two Amy's in that. And throughout that time, it's been wild. My boyfriend of over 2 years now, his ex-wife name is Amy. My last husband's current wife's name is Amy. My daughter, when she was in a volleyball league not too long ago, both of her coaches' names were Amy. And I mean, that's not even all. That's not even all. It has been absolutely wild, all of the Amy's. And sometime, if I have looked into why I've had all the Amy's come in, because they've how they've made me feel. They haven't made me feel. How I have felt about each Amy has been different, but I have learned to grow and look inside for any ways that I feel in order to heal. So all of the Amy's have come in for a reason. So, and again, I can tell more about that story at another point. It's been another tremendous growth factor for me over the last 3 or 4 years, that I have been just receiving a ridiculous amount of Amy's. It's so fun. It's so fun. But even that, like, she was the one who taught me, when something starts getting repeated, whether it's a name or an animal or anything like that, it's for you. It's for you to look at. And so, you may have someone on in the gathering who has been 20 plus years on their spiritual journey, or you may have someone who just started on their spiritual journey. The point is, you come as you are. You are accepted as you are in that moment. And this is a space that's opening up March 20th on the spring equinox. And we just welcome you if you want to come. And so at the end, I will give you information in order to email to get a link or ask questions. If you look in the show notes, you can go ahead and get that now. But at the end, we talk about it too. Okay, so let's get into the conversations that me, Amy, and Mary have today. If you resonate with it, please shoot me a message or DM on Instagram. I would love to hear your thoughts and what comes up for you. Welcome to Embodying You, a podcast of spiritual exploration where nothing is off limits. You'll hear raw, behind-the-scenes stories from people awakening to their soul's path and how they became the healers, mystics, and intuitives they are today. You'll also experience real-time intuitive sessions and healings where struggles transform into breakthroughs that you can bring into your own life. Along the way, you just might recognize yourself in the stories shared. This is Embodying You. Yeah, if there's one thing that I know has taken me a little bit, we're all on camera here. Depending on which podcast you listen to this on, there may or may not be video. If you're listening to it on the Embodying You podcast, there's video. You can see it on Spotify or on YouTube. And so we were having a whole conversation before we got on here about being seen or not, being on video or not, and how we felt about it. And so I just kind of want to open up the space for, because the space that we're creating, Soul to Soul Hour, it's just about this, right? It's about coming exactly as you are. In fact, that's the tagline. It's what we've had from the very beginning when we started this in October of 2024 is come as you are. So let's open the floor to what it feels like to be on camera and to hear your voice and all the things.
I hate it. I don't like it. This is my name's Mary. I was just sharing that like if I'm on camera for work on a Zoom on a whatever we use Microsoft Teams, it's I'm seeing one person or two people. Here it's like it's going out to the world, and so it's been a very hellish week for me, and so just getting out of bed this morning was like I don't want to fucking do this. But I'm here and my theme for the year is just show up and just kind of like see what happens. And so it's uncomfortable for me to yeah, to be on camera. I feel exposed right now. It's interesting when we're in Soul Hour, I didn't care because I I know the space. The space is a safe space. People come, they love on you, they support you. And here it's like, I've seen videos where people like put themselves out there and like all the comments. And so then I just won't read the comments.
My experience with being on and off camera started when I think it was around the same time when Tiffany and I were called to put this co-create this group with the universe with the original name Soul Hour. At the same time, I was creating another podcast platform, but it started off with course modules and the co-hostess I did that with, I created that with, I didn't even realize when I heard this inspired thought in offer yourself to the animals, to that space. I had no idea that the next thought offered back to me was, oh, let's create a course, or let's do a podcast. And it was, everything was going to be front and center. And I had a lot of um, imposter syndrome come up. So that was happening. It's fascinating. The perception is really just about my perception. That platform is no different than the platform that Tiffany and I co-created a year ago. And they were happening simultaneously. And yet, as Mary spoke to, coming as I am, meaning if I don't feel like coming, but I know I've devoted myself to this time and this space, that I can come in my pajamas, I can come with my hair up, I can come on screen, off screen. It doesn't matter. My presence is enough, which is really what I want to know inside is I'm enough. Because what we come to realize in the space together, or what I've come to realize in my own journey, is I have a movie theme title that says, something's wrong with you, you're not enough, from birth 50 years ago. And so I've been unraveling that, not always conscious of it, but I had a physical deformity when I was born that was unexpected. So showing up on camera, since I became very aware when we're into attracting someone, attracting a male animal, for example, or a female animal, it doesn't matter. But so that was my kind of journey with it, is I saw a picture of myself and I remembered I was born with something that wasn't, in quotes, normal. And I went into complete, I will not take pictures anymore. I'm going to use like I'm not going to smile because I don't catch it. When you're sort of used to something that's hidden in plain sight, and then all of a sudden you catch it in a certain lens or a certain mirror, or the diagonal that you're looking at. And then I remembered, oh shit, I have this thing on my face. So, and that theme has been running my whole life. You were born with a birth defect or something's wrong with you. So,
will you say what it is for the people who are listening so that they can feel it? Like,
sure. So in the Cliff Notes is my parents were 23 and 24, 22, 23. I was born in 1976. They were doing everything as naturally as they could. They didn't go for an amniocentesis. They didn't know I was going to be born with cleft lip, cleft palate. And it was unilateral, so not both sides. And I'm their firstborn. And so out comes Amy. And for anyone who's into human design, I am the cross of the unexpected. So it all just ties together so beautifully. But they did not expect this. So they went into, of course, mom wanted children, and my dad went into a shame spiral and left the hospital. So as a newborn, we think we're not conscious of this, but I was. And I'm learning so much more about what I actually adapted to in the womb is a self-esteem, self-devaluation experience, even at 4 to 5 weeks in utero. So this has played a role in my life. And of course, these spaces together with Tiffany, another one with Mary, and then another, the other one I was referring to is this invitation to come out and be seen because this is life. Otherwise, what I've realized is I'm hiding, and I'm not living a life. I'm hiding in a cave, and I love to cave. And of course, that is my environment in human design. And also that's also kind of a crutch, an Achilles heel. I can always hide, and I can do a lot of work in my mind, but if I don't come out to share it, Mary Poppins can't deliver her gifts. So that's the gist of my journey to come on. And like you, Mary, I at first I didn't watch the videos that I was recording, and I just kind of published them. Now I'm learning to kind of sit with it. Like, part of the medicine for me is to sit with what I am, what I'm judging about myself. And through that journey has been so beautiful. Like, oh, wow. Have you ever experienced when you took a picture like 20 years ago or 30 years ago, and at that time you were like, oh God, I fucking suck. Look at my body, blah, blah, blah. And 30 years later, you're like, oh shit, I was actually fucking beautiful. Like, wow, what was I thinking? And I have that happen over and over and over again. And then there's some times where I really am like, wow, that's something's I've gone the other extreme of arrogant and, everything's, I don't need to do anything about it. And I look and I go, shit, you really should have paid attention. So anyway, it's quite a journey. My tagline is, that I'm working with is something's wrong with you, and you're not enough as you are, physically, mentally, emotionally. And that's my personal journey, which is, I think, how this birth through my part of the co-creation is my soul said, you have to come up and out. And what do I really want? I want to belong. I want to feel a part of community. I want to be loved. I want to be held. I want to be embraced. I want to be able to cuss. I want to be able to cry. And sometimes I just want to be held, but I don't want to be on camera. So that's been the gist of what has been birthing through me is you're loved, and they're not running from you. Tiffany's still here a year later. I mean, we met 3 years ago. She's still here 3 years ago. And Mary, you were a participant in this space and now part of hosting it with us. And so I'm learning, I get to be all of me, and like, and that like, I just said it, and like, okay, who's going to run? Who's going to, do I need to escape? Who's going to reject me? Only to realize, oh shit, they're still here. And so then the next fear came up. Oh my God, they're still here. Do I need to do some like damage control? Like, ooh, like was somebody affected? So anyway, that's what's coming through me, the individual called Amy.
Yeah. And I was thinking too, as you were talking about that for instance, whenever I first started, I was always told intuitively that with my podcast that it needed to be in video format, even though I didn't really know why. I even had an intuitive channel for me that needed to be in video format, and that I needed to make sure my background was set up professionally and lighting and everything like that. Right. And the thing is, I already knew those things intuitively. So there's something with my soul path where intuition takes me to, you need to be on camera. You need to be on camera. And I think about how when I first started doing that, even with my very first podcast where I only put out 3 episodes called Embodying Wholeness, just like my company name, I was on camera, and this macrame was in tatters because I had taken it apart and I was redoing it. And fast forward to this one, Embodying You, which again, on camera, now the background looks pretty, right? But I knew it was brand new. I knew there weren't very many people watching. I knew that even if the podcast gets popular, whatever that means, right? Whatever that means, because really it's for whoever listens to it at the time that they're listening. It's if it gets popular, it gets popular. But how many people go back to the first episodes? Some do, but most don't. Most keep going. And so my beginning episodes, most likely no one's really going to see. And so even though I was on video and having these insecurities, and I still have insecurities that I'm working through about being on video, I think about, Amy, what you were just talking about when you were talking. So what Amy was talking about was something called Animere that you did with someone who has a following on Instagram of, what is it, like 45,000 people or something?
Upwards of 55,000. Yeah.
Yeah. And she already has a community, right? She already had things established. She already has a lot of people watching and viewing her videos. And so the visibility was even more of a, Amy, be seen. You are meant to be seen. And the thing is, I feel like it doesn't really matter how we present physically. And I believe that our souls have chosen every single way that we appear, every single piece of us. And so it doesn't really matter how we appear physically. Maybe we're in a body that's, to most considered pretty or beautiful. Maybe we're in a body that to most, like, people would be like, yeah, okay. And that's all perception, right? That's all judgment. But no matter what, we all have our insecurities, every single one of us. And so, man, my introduction to this really was when I started doing Instagram Reels several years ago. I was doing things around the house. Basically, part of my spiritual journey was that as I was separated from my last husband, I started really throwing myself into redecorating my home, doing macrames, painting, doing all these different things like that. And I knew I was meant to share it. So I would share it in Instagram stories, and I would make reels here and there. And I hadn't been on video before. I hadn't even really been on Facebook or Instagram or anything like that before. And so to show my face then, I look at old videos of myself and I can see the insecurity of me seeing myself. I can see all the makeup I was wearing too. Like all of the things that I was hiding. And so it's like, I went through that of sharing something vulnerable in my stories and then having those feelings of, oh my gosh, what are they going to say? What are they going to think? But not deleting it. And so fast forward to now, where even now, about 3 years ago, I started developing a, acne and redness on my cheeks. And it's changed tremendously. I mean, there was a point where it looked like I had been burned with a curling iron in almost like a V shape. So I've healed so much with it. That's a story for another time. But even today, my skin had been relatively clear up to, I don't know. I honestly don't know when it started flaring up again, but maybe 3 or 4 days ago. And so this morning I'm looking at myself in the mirror. My daughter's sick right now. She got diagnosed with COVID a few days ago. So these last couple of nights I've not slept well. Everything is topsy-turvy, just, over here. And so I get up this morning and I sleep in as late as I can. And I throw my hair up, which is perfectly fine to have your hair up, but there's just something about my hair is not down and my skin is flared up, right? Where even getting on here, I had thoughts about it. But part of what we were talking about before we got on here is it's when we are in person with people, like we're just talking to them. We're just person to person. We're just talking. But in this way, we see ourselves and we take all of our judgments into it, which are just that. They're just judgments. But there is this soul to soul connection with whoever it is that we are speaking to. And so there have definitely been times I wanted to have my camera off. Definitely been times I remember actually when we very first started Soul, it was called Soul Hour. Now it's Soul to Soul Hour. When we very first started it, October of 2024, I think it was maybe our second or third time to show up. And I wasn't feeling good that morning. And I remembered, it was called Come As You Are then. And I had that thought because I was thinking, oh, I've got to go in there and I've got to get ready. And then I thought, no, that's not what this space is. And I am no less valuable when I don't feel good than when my hair's not done, my makeup's not done, which I mean, I don't really wear makeup anymore really anyway. But no matter what I'm wearing, and it's this way for everybody, no matter what we are wearing, what we look like, anything, we're still us. We're still us. So, Mary, what else is coming up for you? If you have something coming up,
I always have
about being
I always have
seen and
lots of
being
things coming
heard.
up.
Mhm.
So when both you and Amy were talking, I was thinking about the movie The Greatest Showman and how, what was his name? Oh, Phineas. Phineas Barnum. His kids are like, you need live people. Like, this is boring, right? So he goes out and finds the most, hideous to some, but the most peculiar people, because that's what people want to watch, right? That's what people want to like be in awe of. Like, oh my God, look at that lady with the beard and the guy and Phineas like made them look even more peculiar, how he dressed them and all of that. And so, and the with the idea of this is going to make me a lot of money. And so the people come and they love it, right? And I think what came up for me and then at the end, I'm sure everybody's, well, whatever. If it's a spoiler alert, it's a spoiler alert. At the end, Phineas realizes this is my family because they don't leave him. He leaves them to try to make himself like a big deal, blah, 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 while his partner and the performers are still there, right? And then an event happens and then it's gonna all be gone. And they're like, don't back out us on us now. Like they didn't leave him. And he's like, from now on, this, my eyes won't be blinded by the lights of the big city, the lights of the, you know. And so I was just thinking about like how I'm, I am immediately pulled to people who need fidget toys like me right now. I'm immediately drawn to people who are willing just to like show up and put themselves out there. And I think of my son and how, yeah, and I'm going to take credit for it. But how he has put himself out into the world and how he can have more mature conversations than I can have right now. It's like, holy shit. And just like, I don't know. And we had talked, the reason why we're doing today is because Amy's like, oh, this is a party. We're party planners. I'm like, the fuck, I'm a party planner. I've been doing that for 30 years. I'm not doing it anymore. And like, I just got like really like angry. Like, no, it's like, this isn't a party. Like, this is life. But then what Amy is helping me see is like, but what if all of life is a party? Like, because you can come and you can like be the one in the corner or be the center of attention or huddle around your girlfriends and be like, oh my God, so and so hurt me. And they're like, oh my God, let's go into this room over here and cry and talk bad about him. Like, you can like show up and be whatever you are. And when you're welcome into that space, like one of the reasons why when Amy said, hey, I'm thinking about extending, because Soul Hour originally ended at the end of last year. And when Amy had said, hey, I'm thinking about, rebirthing this, but in a different way, are you in? I'm like, I'm willing. I'm willing to check it out. And so maybe that's the point. Like we're willing to be seen. We're willing to be seen with makeup, without makeup, with our hair, up, with our hair down, with however we are to be seen. Like I showed up in one of the Soul Hours with my hair still in a towel because I just got out of the shower because it's early for me. But I didn't care because I, I know well one of the people that are on the calls, and so I knew like I felt safe, right? And this was like as I'm continuing to get to know the group, like they don't care, like just show up. And so I think, um, and people show up in the hour sometimes with their camera on, sometimes with it off. Sometimes they observe and don't say anything, and then sometimes they share. People share celebrations. People share frustrations. They cry, they laugh. It's kind of like it's literally like being at a kid's party. The kid that like is crying his eyes out for 5 minutes and all of a sudden he's laughing. Kid falls down and like the parents go, and that's what scares the kid. He doesn't care that he fell. He's a foot from the ground. He doesn't care. But it's like it's the parents that like, and so like if we like allow the kids inside of us to come and be seen and to play. And for me, um, I was, uh, according to my therapist, and I do agree, it's called being parentified, where you are the ones to take care of your parents. Something I had said for a long time was, I know that I will be the child. There's three of us. I know I will be the child and end up taking care of my parents. And it was true. So I manifested that one. I was born breech. The joke is, when I was born, I told the world to kiss my ass. So, and that's, and it's so funny because I love that part of me, and I have shut that part of me down for so long, but that part of me is starting to come back out. Like I was telling my husband yesterday, I get these really pretty properties from Zillow just to dream build and manifest. And he's like, oh, that's really close. And then look at the yard. That's where I'm going to build my she shed. And that's where I'm going to like and I'm going to have a big dog that sits at the door. And if anyone wants to see me, they are going to either need to make an appointment. And if you want to see me, then you're going to have to ask me out on a date. He said, oh, so that's how it's going to be. I'm like, that's exactly how it's going to be. So, because it's like, and if you don't like it, tough shit. And it's like, but also still being able to like, I was talking to my therapist. I think I don't know who I talked to about it. Like, I invite everyone to the table, right? It's kind of like soul hour now. I invite everyone in. Who stays, who goes, goes. It is out of my control. Now, if you're going to stay at the table and break a boundary of mine, I'm going to say something. But it's like, but that comes for everybody at the table. If you break someone else's, like, they're invited to speak up. They're invited to like say what, like, okay, that works for me. That doesn't work for me. Because, while we're all one and we're all the same, and going on about this one, we're all also different. Like we bring pieces of each other, pieces of ourselves to the party to like make the puzzle, so to speak. So, those are my thoughts. I could keep going, but I'm not going to.
No, I love that because in human design, which Amy and I, that's where we met, was in a human design mastermind with Emma Dunwoody. And that's part of what you learn is that truly we all have puzzle pieces. And when we come together, we plug into one another. Kind of like if I'm working at home and I'm not feeling motivated, I can go to a coffee shop and feel motivated. I can, whether I mean to or not, plug into someone's willpower center, for example, or something like that. And that was just one of the things that I learned in my trajectory of working on myself, that we are all truly meant to live in community and be puzzle pieces. And I think it's part of why spaces like this, where people do get to just come as they are, so important.
And it's funny.
And I was thinking, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just going to say, like, as I'm sitting in this space with you two, who I trust with my life, honestly. and like just how we're growing together, and how we each have our challenges, et cetera, et cetera. It I'm trying to figure out how to describe this. Like, that's, even though this is going out to whoever, I'm with you right now.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. Like, so think, like, if you're at a party, right? And every single party I've ever had, where does it end up? In the kitchen. Either in the kitchen, or if you have a bar at your house, at the bar. So in my old house, in my first marriage, we had our kitchen, and then like a family room, and then off in the corner was the bar. So it was kind of perfect. So everybody was like in that area or outside. Um, and there's always these pods of people,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they're whatever they're talking about. And like, if somebody comes up to the pod, they don't care. They, you know, they welcome it in, and then that person's like, okay, I've had enough of that pod. I'm going over here now. That's what I did. That's what I did. Like, okay, I've had enough of this. I'm going over here now. And you can leave when you want. You can show up when you want. And I have no idea where I'm going with that, but that's like the gist of soul to soul, of Soul Hour community. Like, you can show up when you show up. If you can't show up for some reason, your presence is missed. I remember my first wedding, wake up the next day going, I wonder why so and so didn't show up. Out of the 120 people that showed up, I thought about that one couple that didn't show up. And so your presence is missed, and maybe that's my lesson. Like, by being on camera, I am in totality of my presence. So,
Yeah. It also makes me think too how it's both. Like, if we're just simply talking about this space, the gathering, soul to soul hour, it's both, right? Your presence is missed, and also you don't have to attend every single week. We had people that balanced in and out. Maybe they would come about once a month, maybe they would come about every other week, maybe they'd come 6 in a row and then not come. It's all perfectly okay, and you're not going to have someone reaching out saying, hey, where were you? Hey, where were you? There's no pressure. I love that. And Amy, I don't know if you have something to say about that too, but I thought this would be a really good place to also jump into the party aspect.
Okay. So to give a little bit of context of how this actually began, Soul Hour, Tiffany and I have come from 12-step Coda rooms, and it was something unique that when Tiffany and I met in Human Design Mastermind, I kept hearing about Coda, and my therapist at the time said, I think you need to go sit in some rooms. And I was like, what? So anyway, then Tiffany comes in and starts to share snippets, or just even the word. And I thought, oh my God, there it is. And so if you're in human design and you follow external cues as your, way to your strategy to respond to something, well, there it was. So I was learning all these little things. And so I ended up in the rooms. And so this got birthed from the essence of what I personally experienced in going to a room where you could say anything that was coming up for you. You could show up any way you want. There was some loose structure to keep us safe and contained within an hour space. But that feeling that, as a recovering codependent, where as a child, I don't breathe, I don't speak, I don't look until I'm given the cue to do so. And, that goes back to the birth story, that something's wrong with me. So I have to be very hyper vigilant of how to be, how to perceive life, how to interact with life. So that brought me to that room, that the essence of that room, which is, oh my God, there's so many other people like you. Oh, and then it took some time to be vulnerable in that space. And so from there, we started to hear like what would it be like to create this space outside of that, outside of the realm or the context of recovery, what would it be like to just have this in your everyday life? And we have a mutual friend that has a phrase, let's bring it to the table. So funny enough, Mary mentions bringing it to the kitchen table. And that's very, very old school, tribal, native. Like, let's bring this around the table. It's even biblical. What does Jesus do? He sits around the table, the Sabbath. And anyway, so to bring everything to the table. So we started to think about, well, what would this look like? And the essence of it was to get to the table and just push go, meaning it's not recorded. Let's come to the table. All that matters is that you and I are showing up to the table. Even if we knew between us, even if you or Tiffany or I couldn't be there, the space would still be there. So that was the premise, is we're going to show up no matter what. And we committed to this for 1 year. And as soon as the commitment and devotion, that the container was sort of created, the frame of the picture was created, then the content started to fill in. But the content was, oh shit, what if no one comes up? Oh, what if hundreds of people show up? And we went through all these iterations of these two, in this lifetime, these two little girls all of a sudden facing all of their shit, but it was together. And then it started to breathe life outside of us and extend to invite others who just felt the call or heard the call. Like, we sent it out. Here's what we're doing. Come if you want to. Come as you are. Truly, truly come as you are. And the only, in quotes, rule or kind of structure about it then was taking the gift of being in 12-step rooms, which is no one asks you advice. No one offers advice. No one asks you questions. No one interrupts you. You get to have your talking stick. You get to have the mic. You get to share whatever's coming up for you, and then sit in being received. And that alone, I can feel that in my stomach now. That is so powerful. To give it is easier for me than to receive it. That's my own personal journey. So we went a year, and it grew and it expanded. It was sort of like an accordion. It grew and then it got smaller. And towards the end of the year, it was this niche of, kind of less than 10, but really, like, that doesn't mean anything. It meant like there was a powerful family that had developed, and that God, creator, consciousness developed with us, through us. And Mary came because someone else invited her. We didn't even know Mary less than a year ago. And all of a sudden, as one realizes in this space, it's almost like you don't want to show up, but you like need to show up. And like when you show up, then all of a sudden you can breathe again. To be able to come home to a family that doesn't interrupt, you get the mic if you want it. And so there's even there's that kind of journey of, do I want to speak? What do I want to say? Do I have to have a planned thing to say? Can I just turn on my mic and just see what happens? And all of those iterations have been experienced in that first year. And then at the end of the year, Tiffany and I kind of said, I don't know, the humans come in again. I don't know. Other things to do. And, I don't know. And we just kept sitting with it in that liminal space between basically the end of the year and this beginning of the new year, this astrological new year, that liminal. And I kept feeling this call, like, you must continue this. You must continue this for me, for me, Amy. You must continue this. This is great. This is good. This is healthy. This is medicine for your experience as a human. And so it was like, Tiffany, do you want to do this? And, yeah, maybe. I don't know. Let me think about it. We're still thinking about it. I'm not sure yet. And then I said, okay, well, how about if we invite someone else in? And we always kind of knew we were designed to work with more than just the two of us. And of course, all the nuances of Mary in a space. Hey, Mary, would you like to do this? And Mary's like, yes. And then at the same time, Mary and I are creating a podcast together. So all this stuff, just following cues. So, okay, we start to get together. What does this look like? And we're working through iterations of, what do we want to do? How can we grow? So not just do the exact same thing we did last time. How can we grow, even if it's just the three of us? What can we invite into this space, to this frame, to fill in the picture? How can we grow through this? because my own personal context of life is if I'm not expanding, then I have to move on. So that's what I bring. The cross of the unexpected is like, okay, guess what? Guess what? It's going to change now that you're used to this. Let's bring in some nuances. And what came was the kid in me that is literally the Toys R Us kid who doesn't want to grow up. All of a sudden, on one Saturday when I'm off tech, I hear, wait a minute, this is a party. Imagine if you were invited to a party, Amy, where you didn't have to wear a costume, where you could show up exactly as you are, where the literal attire is come as you are. You can cry, you can laugh, you can scream, you can have a temper tantrum. That the what, when, where, how, who is this for, and what is the kind of swag? What am I going to leave this party with? So that theme came, and of course I presented it to Mary and Tiffany, and each iteration of me, the facets of the diamond, had something to say about it. I'm not expecting anymore. I used to, very arrogantly, my idea, my way or the highway. And so it was like, hey, this is what I'm experiencing. What do you think? And immediately it was like, I don't know, I have a lot to say about this, which is what Mary already spoke to. And so it wasn't necessarily, as it started to move through me, the idea was not necessarily that, we're dressing up and this is a party, but it was using this as a context of life is a game and life is a party. And so when we go to this party, you can dress and come as you are, when you are, how you are. It's the greatest gift for me to know that, and to also experience that even if no one shows up to the party, because I've had that experience as a child where, many were invited and literally no one showed up at the party, but I always had my sister. And so in this case, there's one of us, but even if Tiffany and Mary didn't show up, I now have this experience that I'm settling into, which is we are one and I am one and all. And so I started to say, like, what is it like to sit at a party where I'm the only one there? And it starts to fill in with the essence of what we talked about. When someone is physically not there, we still feel them. And instead of like feeling that they're absent, we literally, that's an extension of love to even think about them. Like, oh, ooh, I got to meet you in form, and now you're here, whether you're here or not. So the party theme presented itself, and it's a way to give us context of everything happens at a party. So, which is exactly what Soul Hour, which is now birthing to Soul Hour, because that's really what it is. It's soul to soul in this container of an hour. Everything is welcome. Share your challenges, share your, celebrations, and be held at this party. And what do I walk away with? Like, what's the swag for me? The swag or the gift bag at the door. For me, it's the greatest gift is me, that I was held at this party, that I could leave my mess on the floor and no one has to clean it up, not even me. So it's kind of like you get to go party at this party for this hour and no one has to be in charge of cleanup, which is huge for me personally, because as a codependent, recovering codependent still, is I have to clean up the mess, and the parentified child, I have to clean this up. So in this case, oh my God, there's like one tiny responsibility, which is I have to get on to open up the space. But that's enough sometimes. And even from there, that's literally it. The rest gets filled in by all of the parts of me that show up in each other. And being able to receive that's also a challenge. I can I let this go? Oh wait, I don't have to do anything. And then and how's that being done? And it's just the funny things of the child in me that says, yes, that's right. You can show up as you are. You are all, you are everything, and you are one. So all of this is a way for me to see and hear and feel that the rainbow of the diamond, all of the facets of the mirror are here, are welcome. And so this is a new context to grow into, is when I'm in my greatest grief. And this is just funny. It's kind of a funny snippet. People don't know what to say, but that's okay, because this is part of the party. Like, not every, I had someone say to me, as a perfect example, I was in the depths of what was about to happen, in a very personal experience of a former husband about to leave. I knew he was leaving that day. And I was in a class getting certified for a healing modality. And I was terrified. I was shaking. I was waiting in line, and I could feel the presence of the facilitator, like, not wanting to connect with me. That was my perception. When I finally got up there, all she said to me was, "Congratulations." And I died, like, right there in that moment. What do you mean? And that is this space where it's the party. Congratulations, you've arrived. You're about to grow again, and you're terrified. And so terrified and fear and grief also get to play at the party with, oh my God, congratulations. There's something happening. And you asked for this, you co-created this moment. So this is learning about titration at a party. What does that look like?
And you were saying that you had gone up to the facilitator and you had told her your husband was leaving you, and she said, congratulations. Is that correct?
Yes. I was sharing, oh my God, I'm terrified. I don't know what to do. And I don't even know what I was looking for in that moment. Maybe for her to tell me, don't worry, because, psychic, intuitively connected, don't worry, it's not happening. But instead, she said, congratulations. And it took me 2 years to settle into what that meant, and to laugh about it, and to go back up to her 2 years later, because I was still in certification, and say, I understand now. And thank you for having the courage to say congratulations to me, because it was the medicine that I needed to wake me up to say, this is just one iteration of the game. Don't get stuck at at like the game of 5 years ago. The new game is here, and you're in resistance to accepting it, and you can play that game. I sat on the floor for 2 years. I played that game over and over. I tried to keep that record going, and it just kept skipping. So that congratulations changed my life. It's not what we're doing in this space. There is no crosstalk. We do not offer that advice. And that's just the availability of having Tiffany share, oh my God, I'm having a rockin' week, and me saying, oh my God, my life just fell apart. Mm-hmm. Both are welcome in this space. And somehow love, the essence of all of us, are able to hold this together. So it is, if you're triggered by the word party, awesome. means maybe there's an invitation to come join. And also, if you're triggered by hearing like someone's joy while you're grieving, like that's part of the space too. And we just say, again, come as you are. Everything and all of you is welcome. And as the, in quotes, facilitator or container, the human containers of this, I've even faced that part of, is it okay for me? Because, this space was created through us. Do I have to be the teacher, the holder? No, this is even that nuance for us that we've played with, Tiffany, is like, well, no, I remember one of those moments where I had to face my own fear and the imposter. Like, I can't let people see me even in this space, but my world was falling apart, and I chose to lean into this, the safety. And then the camera's off, and the hour's over, and then it's like, okay, now what? And it's, for me, it's no different than therapy. Like I grow from that space of like, okay, now what do I do? They didn't just leave me. This is an expected, consistent, safe, sacred container that I can rely on every Friday for 1 year, that I can show up exactly as I am and let it just drop. So,
yeah. And I want to say something just real quick about what you said, because Amy and I, we both do energy healing and just, things along those lines for like we have clients, and sometimes clients would come into that space, not with us saying, oh, that person's a client or that person's a client, but clients would come into that space. And so even think about that. Amy and I have talked about this. We're one person when we are with clients. We're still ourselves, but when you feel that energy coming through you, when you're in that healer mode, mode of being, I don't know exactly how Amy feels, but I feel powerful. I feel like I'm getting all the information. And then I come out of that space and I still feel good in a way, but like I'm my human self. So now I've got more of the human things rather than being able to really see that everything's happening for a reason for this person, and being able to see even when they're having a hard time, no, oh, this is great, right? So there's this healer. I don't want to call it a persona because again, we're not pretending, but we're just in a different mode. But then when we would come into this space, potentially having clients there was this fear of, what are my clients going to think about what I'm saying? And I had to just let it go and say, no, I'm here simply to be here. I'm here for me. And what was cool to see is the clients didn't leave me, right? They didn't go anywhere. And so there's even this whole trajectory that I feel like is changing in our world, where we no longer want to work with people who aren't themselves all the time. Like, we want to know, what is your messy middle? We tend to see so much. What we tend to get from people is the beginning hardship, like the very beginning hardship. And here I am, rather than all the in between. And there is an in between, and it makes us more human. And I feel like that's where we're going as a society. One thing that I also want to talk about, because you were talking about how the theme came up with the party for you. And so during this time that you all were talking about the party theme, I was kind of in the background watching within a group text. I was watching this happen and listening. And I just thought this was so interesting. So, Amy comes on and she's sharing her concept of the party. And I know Amy when she's channeling and she's sharing what she's channeling, and there's all this passion coming through, and she's explaining the different iterations of what if it's the party, and what if it's this, and what if it's that. And I have known Amy like very well, like we're very close for about 3 years now. And so I know how, when this comes through, I used to take it literally, like, oh, she means this. And for a split second, I thought that she did mean, oh, we need to turn this into a party. And so for a split second, I was like, huh. But then as I listened, I was like, oh no, this is a metaphor. Oh yeah, okay. And so she's so passionate about how she's going through, but yet, because of our codependence anonymous type background, we also know by now that when we share, and especially when we're in groups with one another, we're not trying to control. We're just sharing the information and seeing where it goes from there. So I'm listening to this, and then I see Mary's reaction, and she was like, I will put it in my own words for a second. It was like, oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. And I thought it was so great. So I'm going to turn it over to Mary to talk about how she actually felt in the moment. But here's one of the things I want you all to know. When you really get into a space of believing that every single thing that happens outside of you, anytime that you are triggered by something outside of you, it's an inside job. It is about you. And so what's cool about that is when you're in a group space where people are learning that, or they get it, you truly can say how you feel about what is happening, because the other person knows, again, how they feel about what you're saying is for them, and vice versa. So the idea is everyone's working on themselves and not just, immediately spurting their feelings and emotions on everyone else. And that's not what Mary did. She said it in a very nice way. But I want to say that, first of all, how cool is it to be in a space where people can say things to you that they don't like? It can be weird for other people who are not used to that. Like, whenever I tell my boyfriend about times where clients have come to me and have said, like, hey, when you sent me this, I didn't really like that. And then I looked at myself and said, oh, okay, yes, I can understand why you say that. Or someone didn't understand something that I said. And so again, like, maybe it's a client or a friend, and they come back and they're like, hey, I didn't really like that. Old me didn't even realize that I ever evoked that in other people, but now people will tell me, right? So I want to talk about just your reaction to it and how you actually felt. And then, and then I'll give my piece of how I felt too about the party. That's actually the main reason why we're here, besides talking about the group and introducing the gathering, is this idea of the party and the conversation we were having. And we said, oh my gosh, we have to talk about this. We have to bring it to the podcast.
So, yeah, I was like, yeah, no, we're not. No, this is dumb. So the two things that came up for me was I've been an executive assistant 30 years, I don't even know, a long time. And for years, like I feel like I was a party planner. Like I worked for an engineering company, and whenever a product launch came out, the engineers had to, work god awful hours. And so my job was to plan lunch and dinner for like a month, right? And we used, it was like a DoorDash, but it was called something else at the time. And I would stress out, like, what should I get tonight? And what are the allergies? Like, there's 100 engineers, okay? And and then I would get the what's for lunch today, what's for dinner, and then my husband called, what's for dinner? I'm like, oh my God, I'm not a chef. So what I ended up doing was, I'm like, this is what you're having on Monday through Friday. Here's your menu. And I had a big whiteboard, and I had a thing on the bottom. If you have any issues or any allergies, contact me directly. Worked great. And then, one time, I came back on a Monday. They left all their mess from Indian food from a Friday night in this thing they called the war room, this huge room. You can imagine the smell. You can imagine the mess. I was pissed. I was like, no, I'm not doing this. So I talked to my boss and said, if I have facilities bring like 2 big garbage cans in the room, can you ask people just to throw their stuff away? Like, I'll clean up the rest. And she's like, oh my God, they weren't cleaning up anyway. So it was just, so of course that's coming up, right? And then the other thing that came up for me is, in my first marriage, we had a beautiful, I mean, I have a beautiful home now. Beautiful home. We had a pool, had the bar, had the kid, and my husband was in a band. And so we would throw parties every now and again. And one specific Halloween party we had, it was me and 2 girlfriends. Well, I had done all this setup. I was waiting for them to get there, and I was so pissed off. I was like, and so, like, where are they? Why aren't they here? Blah, 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 blah. And so what I realized, as I'm going through this, when I get this text from Amy was, okay, first of all, that was then, this is now. I was projecting on the outside of myself how I was feeling on the inside. Like, it has to be perfect. Everybody has to have a good time, because what if they don't? Then it reflects badly on me, blah, blah, blah. And then that went into, when Leon was little, we had birthday parties every year. My sister made the cake, and my mom sometimes would dress up. Like, it was this thing, everybody's like, oh yeah, we get to go to Mary's, because they got the pool, and my son's birthday was in August. So it was like perfect anyway, but it was the same thing. Do we have enough food? What, I never asked anyone to bring anything ever, because I'm going to do it all. Right. And then I got to do the clean. Like, so all of this is coming up when I'm reading this, this text, like, but the glorious thing was, I don't even know what my initial response was, like, oh hell no, or I'm gonna have to sit with this for a minute, because what I'm learning is, now when I'm triggered by a text, by a person, by whatever, it's like I need to, like, take a step back. I need my old opera, whatever you call that, what are the operas mode, whatever it's called, was to react immediately, right? Because I'm going off emotions. I'm going up, right? Because that's who I am. I'm just an emotional person. You're just going to have to get over it, blah, whatever. And now it's like, no, take a step back, regulate, because these things would, I lived a long time of my life in dysregulation. And so that was where I was coming from. So now I'm like, regulate, what's really going on here? And so I was able to do that when I got this text, like, they say more on this, you know, maybe let's get on a call, to talk about this. And that's why, so now we're here and we're sharing like everything that went down. And what I am also learning about Amy, because I've only known Amy since what, October? Even though it feels like I've known her, and Tiffany, even though it feels like I've known you guys forever, like I'm learning like when uh how she flows. Like when she's on, like it's just boom, boom, boom. It's like, okay, wait, let me catch up, let me catch up, let me catch up. And it's funny because when we started the podcast, it was based off this one question, and we just started literally like it was just this flow, and we're like, oh, should we do a podcast anyway? And I was laughing because I was trying to find a text. I said that's not going to happen because there's so many, like, to scroll back, but like, so it's almost, so what I'm learning still is, okay, Amy might show up like this today and Tiffany might show up like this today, but it doesn't matter. What matters is how I'm showing up. And I know in this space that I can show up exactly as I am. Like, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be on camera. And when I got that text, like, I slept late, I'm like, shit. So like running around, like getting my, like, grabbing my clothes, like, my hair, and like put on some makeup. And then like, now that I'm here, like, I'm just laughing because I'm like, it doesn't fucking matter. I could have had my hair up or down, frizzy, it did, like, it doesn't matter because I showed up and I'm in this space, and it's community, and it's just maybe, you know, and I think the reason, one of the reasons why I love this space so much, the soul space, soul to soul, soul hour, whatever, come as you are, whatever you want to call it, is because other people, when they share, like, oh, I'm really going through it, I'm having a fucked up week, or I'm having the best week ever, nobody judges, nobody compares, nobody interrupts, because we see each other as ourselves. And so we know, and when someone else says, oh my God, me too. Like Amy and I record our podcast, I think I don't know, whenever it was, I think it was last week or the week before. I woke up that morning going, who, with the voice, who are you to be doing a podcast? But like, just the whole thing. I was like, oh, maybe I'm not supposed to be doing this. Am I really supposed to be sharing my relationship with Jesus with the world? And I'm like, and it's so funny because when I got on with Amy, Amy's like, oh my God, me too. I almost called you and said we need to reschedule. And like when someone says, oh my God, me too, you're just like, okay, they get me. So that's my story of the party text.
Tiffany, can I add in just one little snippet of when I got Mary's text? And, this is me. The child that literally I think has been, I have not allowed, I wasn't able, whatever the case may be. It's funny. My perception is that I couldn't get all of this out. I spent a life being disassociated. So when it drops in and the flow drops in, I'm, this is like hot, black and white, which is really, I'm learning, what does gray look like? And I don't know yet. And so you guys you're both of you are reflecting back to me something I'm kind of like, oh shit. Okay, great. It can be overwhelming. But what I want to say specifically to Mary's text, I had a part of me come in and go, like, the kid is punished immediately. And I know that's not true, but that prior to being in this space together, prior to being in, getting myself the journey that we whatever our journeys are to get to this space, would have been embarrassment, shame, lock it down. Okay, never mind. I was just kidding. That's not what I meant. Oh, But I had to myself, my own journey was to look at that text and say, wait, what am I making up about this? Oh, I'm making up that this is a personal thing. And so in Mary's words, and for me, it was, I pulled back and said, okay, wait, this, this is about me, but whatever I'm making it mean is my responsibility. So to pull out of that space and say, okay, came through for a reason. There's no reason to feel guilty about all the, excitement and passion and flow. And I'm also not married to the idea. So we'll see what happens. And then here comes Tiffany. So
See, and I love this too, because what you all are really seeing and hearing from us is that we have an initial reaction to something. Let's say in this instance, we have Mary's reaction to Amy's message. And what we have been taught is to stick with our initial reaction. And if our initial reaction is uncomfortable or triggered, it must mean blank. Maybe it means the thing isn't right. Maybe it means, oh, okay, I guess we're not supposed to work together. Like whatever the stories are in our mind that are playing, our mind is going to go back to whatever is the easiest. Okay, my body's not feeling safe right now. What is the thing I need to do to feel safe? Is it run away? Is it say, you know what, never mind. You know what, I'm not going to play with you anymore, right? And so I think this is really cool because what really you all are hearing who are listening is you're hearing people who have already so thoroughly worked through by this point how they felt that the thought of really even spending time on what was initially felt isn't the main thing talked about. The main thing talked about is, oh my gosh, it brought me back to my childhood. It brought me back here. It brought me back there. And that's the magic. That's the magic. Have your initial reaction, right? Have your initial reaction, including in the space in Soul to Soul Hour, if you choose to come. You are going to have feelings that come up about the people there. You are going to have feelings that come up, and you may have for a moment a feeling of judgment. You may have a moment of, oh my God, or whatever it is. You may, but that is for you, because when you get to the point where you have worked on that feeling that come up, okay, what is at the root of this? What is the root of my trigger? What is the root of me feeling this way? Then you'll find going forward, you either no longer feel that way anymore, like you're no longer triggered. Maybe you have compassion instead. Or even if you are triggered, you can pretty quickly in your mind go, oh, okay, what is the feeling that's being triggered right now? Oh, that's the feeling. And to me, it's that the universe is asking you to work on that feeling. And then for me, normally when I ask for the root of it, it's normally in those 0 to 7 age ranges. Sometimes past lifetime is the first thing that comes up. And so I know that's the part of a bigger conversation to be had. And it's funny, as we're talking about come as we are, whenever I nod my head, my little bun is going kind of crazy. So it's distracting me. But yeah, so whenever I saw the things coming through, because of already having worked through my own feelings of like maybe feeling overwhelmed or whatever it is, and knowing, oh, okay, I don't have to respond right away. I can wait a little bit. I can wait until my energy is right. I waited till my energy was right to catch up in the group text. And so when I saw that come through, I found myself, my thing was wanting to do the codependent trait of defending for someone else, or and it was like there was a little bit of that, and then there was a little bit of wanting to make Mary feel better and wanting to make Amy feel better, right? Like of whatever I made up in my mind, each of them were feeling. Which granted, you could say that if you're, you could potentially, if you could get your emotions out of the way enough, go in and intuitively see, okay, what's going on with each of them. But I don't even waste my time with that. It's because it's about me. Okay, how am I feeling? And I knew, oh, I'm just going to sit with this. And then when we got on live, me, Amy, and Mary, and we're working out different things in the background with the Soul to Soul Hour, like email and website and things like that. But we know, oh, we're going to talk about this. I can't, my bun is all over the place. It's just shaking all over the place. But when we got on and we started talking about it, and again, just openly, each of us talking about how we were feeling, one of the things that was coming up for me about this idea of the party is we forget that being human is the party. Every single emotion that we feel, every single part of our lives, the good, the bad, the ugly, all the things, is the party. It is the human experience. And so even though like most of what Amy had talked about that she meant was just, you know, the theme of the who, what, when, where, and the feeling that you have of being invited, and the feeling that you have of what you leave the party with, right? Like you leave the party with knowing you have community. You leave the party with knowing you're accepted as you are. And then, of course, you can plug in your own whatever you've left the party with. But also within this is the hard emotions are just as important to bring to the party as the happy emotions are. And then not only that, a part of the party is being able to be authentically ourselves and not to have to pretend like we're something we're not. And what I mean by that in this moment is that life is the party. And when we begin to value the hard times just as much as the good times in our soul's trajectory and our soul's learning, and the proof of this, the proof of the value of even the hard times is if you were to take a moment to reflect back on some of the hardest times in your life, what came after that experience, after you went through it, after you integrated it, became the new you, whatever had to change within you from that hard time, like what came after that? And to me, that's what the hard times are about. They're not just random shit happening to us. It's for our growth. What will we do with it? And what a fucking party prize.
The other thing to add to is, which is the other side of that scale that you were offering, which is when we're in the low, we don't want the other person to dim their light. And also when we're, it's the opposite is also true. We should be able, we're invited to be exactly as we are in all of the ways that we are, and without that meaning anything to ourselves or to the other. And that's what this space itself, the space, the silence of the space that's weaving between all of us is inviting us. There is no instruction. We don't set up, saying we're the healers and this is what we're offering. It's saying we are human. This is the party, the experiences of all of these feelings and these experiences where the experiencer is experiencing. This is the party, and each opportunity is an invitation to grow into something, but we can't say or name what that is. That's part of the unknown gift of being in this space together. Is I might leave triggered, shit, okay, or I might leave kind of, what the hell happened? Or I might leave, oh my God, I feel so much better. That's the human part of it. But underneath is that the gifts of gleaning what the space is offering that we can't even speak to. Only in retrospect can we say, oh, I mean, we gleaned a co-hostess out of nowhere in this space with, Mary coming in as as in quotes, just a participant. And here we are, we've expanded. So both are true, of you don't have to dim it and you don't have to rise too. You can come to this party feeling like something's shifting and you just feel like crap about it. And you don't have to fake it and come with a smile on your face. I've experienced that. So that's the other side is, let me put on a happy face, but I feel like shit. And guess what? Everyone feels that in the room and the whole room changes because we know what's authentic. Why don't we embody the authenticity? Because what my own experience is that when we do, it shifts. If we don't, everyone holds that in that space. And it's like what the phrases we know, there's an elephant in the room and we don't know who's holding it. We all are. But only there's an individual having an experience that isn't able to share it. And in this case, this is where we share it.
Can I add one more thing to that? So when Amy said, we don't want anyone to dim their light. They don't need to come down, to this energy. But when I'm down in this energy, because of the work I've done, let me preempt it with that. When someone's up here, I'm reminded of what's possible. Like, oh, yeah. Remember that time that this and this happened? Oh my God, that was amazing. Like, I'm reminded. Also, when I'm up here and someone's down here, I know that in any given time, in any moment, in any second, I can go because something can happen. And I think, Tiffany, I really liked how you described it's how we react, because it really has to do about us. And I'm trained in shadow work and that type of coaching. And so when I come to a call and when I'm triggered by a person, whatever, they're talking too slow or they're not making sense or whatever it might be, it's where do I see that in myself? Because as soon as I see that in myself, oh, is that an area that I need to work on for me and myself? Because when I work on that space and I integrate that into me, then I'm no longer, then I'm able to see the person in a clearer light, because that judgment's no longer there, because I've integrated that, whatever that piece is, back into myself.
Yeah. And the shadow parts of us, like we can hide the good parts of us and we can hide the parts of us that we aren't wanting to look at. So like even jealousy and envy, what we see in another that we think, oh, I wish I could be that. Well, what aspect of that are you resonating with? And you're resonating with it because you've stuck that into your shadow as not being safe to be. Oh my gosh, we should do a podcast episode on the shadow. Oh my gosh, I've healed so much from looking at my shadow, but yes, thank you all. Okay, so the group that we've been talking about, Soul to Soul Hour, our first one is starting on the spring equinox, which is March 20th of 2026. How beautiful is that? And you are welcome to join. Right now, our site is not up, but you can email gather@soul2soulhour.com and we will reply within 24 hours, sending you a link to join. If you have any questions, again, you can email gather@soul2soulhour.com and one of us will get back to you, either me, Tiffany, Amy, or Mary. One of us will get back to you. And it will also be in the show notes.
And there is no catch. There's no fee. There's no donation. This is show up exactly as you are. You are the gift.
It is a free space through the end of 2026. Well, it is a free space, period. And we have committed to this being a space through December 2026. Anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, thank you all so much for being here. We love you and have a beautiful day or evening wherever it is that you are. If this episode spoke to you, please subscribe and leave a review so others can find this show too. Your support helps this community grow and brings more voices into the conversation. Plus, I would love to hear your biggest takeaway. Thank you so much.